All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the M Made Me podcast series focusing on Memphians from all over. With me on today's episode is Austin Webster, the CEO, I'm going to say CEO and founder of Deepr Music App. So, Austin, before we get into the background of you, so explain what you're doing to me now.
Okay. Well, Jamal, pleasure to be here, man. A brother from another mother, man. Watch you growing up from a little pup to big dog. So yeah, Deepr is we started on this journey in 2016. I was living in Atlanta here for a career opportunity, and I was enjoying Apple Music. You know, they had launched Beats One Radio. And Pharrell Williams and Scott Venner. Scott Venner is the music supervisor for Entourage, How to Make It in America, and Ballers. It's got the best taste in music, in my opinion. And they had this show called Other Tone on Beats One Radio. And Justin Timberlake, in Memphis Connection, was on the show. And Scott Venner made a mix of boy band groups. And I was going to like fast forward. I was in traffic listening to it. I was going to skip past it. I was like, I'm not listening to this. And I said, well, he does have great taste in music, so let me just hear what he plays. And maybe a couple songs in, this one song started playing. I was like, yo, who is this? And I looked at my phone. It was New Kids on the Block. And I was just like mind blown. I was like, I ain't never heard New Kids on the Block sound like this before. This sounded like 90s R&B. Like I love 90s R&B. And this was like perfect sound. So I said, okay, I'm going to look this song up later because I'm curious who's behind this because I ain't never heard them sound like this before. And when I looked it up, lo and behold, it was produced by Teddy Riley, which is a no-brainer why it sounded good. But then it was co-produced by a person who was born in Memphis, Leon Silvers. Now, Leon Silvers, I'm a big music head, and Leon Silvers is the guy responsible for all the songs your parents played at parties and backyard barbecues growing up. Shalimar, The Whispers, Lakeside, all the Solar Records music. He was like the Pharrell of the 80s. And the fact that him and Teddy Riley have worked on music just blew my mind. And I said, okay, if they worked on this, what else have they done? And I started going like a little rabbit hole. I was like looking up, different sites on Google, like what songs have these two guys done together? And it was like 6 or 7 songs that they did. I put that in the playlist in Apple Music. It took me about like an hour. And when it was all said and done, I played the songs back to back and they all had that same sound.
Right.
And they all sounded good. And some of the songs like some Blackstreet songs, a Michael Jackson song. I was like, oh man, like I can hear the DNA in all these songs and I like them all. No wonder. And I said, why can't Spotify do this? Why can't Apple Music do this? Why can't I do this using YouTube? And something just said, well, they'll figure it out. They got the money and the resources. But then something else just prompted me and said, why not you? And a little bit about my background. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design. My background's in industrial design. I worked in Memphis professionally as an industrial designer, designing ceiling fans. I know about problem solving and looking at pain points and coming up with solutions. So I started sketching out the idea of what it could be. And I said, what if you had an app that was like the best of Shazam, but also allows you to find out who was behind the music and then take it a step further and make playlists based off that information. One thing led to another. I created a clickable prototype. Started taking it around to different events here in Atlanta, and people were giving me good feedback about it. So I said, okay, I may have something. Maybe I should put some money down and figure out a way to build an app. And right as I was getting to that place, I connected with a guy here in town who actually built out apps and technology, and he had a partner in India, and they said, I think we can help you with this. And I brought them on board. Next thing you know, we built out an app, an MVP, started showing it at events like A3C, which is a big hip hop and tech conference here in Atlanta. Met my co-founder, rebranded the company, launched the official app, and the rest is history. So now Deepr is a music discovery app that you can download for your iOS and Android devices. You can pretty much use it like audio recognition like Shazam. If you hear a song playing at Starbucks, if you know what you're looking for, you say, yo, I want to hear this new Moneybagg Yo track that Pharrell produced. I want to see who else was behind the record. You can look it up in Deepr, say, okay, I want to see all the songs that Pharrell, Chad Hugo, and this engineer did together. And if it's like 1,000 songs, we'll pull it up for you in seconds. If it's 3 songs, we'll pull it up to you in seconds. Now you can sync your Apple Music, your Spotify, and your YouTube accounts to the app, and you can play it directly in app, or you can send the playlist to those services. So that's Deepr in a nutshell. We're working on some other great things as well. We just kicked off a crowdfunding campaign that we're really excited about. So if you're interested in, being a part of music tech, there's an opportunity for you. We'll share that link with you later. But that's Deepr, man.
Yo, it's so funny how you said you listen to the songs back to back to back, and you found that through line. Because Alex and I were watching Unsung the other night. And Selena Johnson.
Okay.
Selena Johnson, and they were talking about her first two albums, where her first two hit singles were written by R. Kelly. And if you go by and the name you cannot mention, but if you go back and you listen to the songs, it sounds like an R. Kelly song.
Oh yeah.
I can the cadence, the instrumentation, all of it sounds like a song I heard R. Kelly perform. So it makes sense that he was the one that wrote the song. Same thing with Neo. I think I can point out any song Neo has written.
Exactly, man.
Because he has a signature style.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great things I love about the app is that, because even stuff that you don't think about, even going deep down to the engineer, is something. And people engineers are unsung heroes in music production.
Yep.
And so they're super dope. Like I said before, man, this was something I've been trying to get you on to talk about on many of my projects, on the regular kickback, on whatever I got going on. So I'm glad we got the time to do that. But we're gonna jump back. We're gonna jump into the past of Austin. So, like I said, you don't live in Memphis now, but when you're growing up in Memphis, we ask everybody the same question. This question that every Memphian asks. So where'd you go to high school?
Went to high school at the illustrious Ridgeway High School.
It was illustrious back then.
It was, man. I would like to say my generation created a level of dominance in academia and athletics that was unseen in the Memphis city schools, old school city school era. But,
until White Station, obviously.
White Station was always the constant, steady presence. Ridgeway, I would say Ridgeway is always a great school, but no, that was a fantastic time there, man. The 2000s, early 2000s.
So you went to high school at Ridgeway. What about elementary and middle?
So I grew up in Germantown. Sometimes people say, "Oh, that ain't Memphis," but that is Memphis to me, East Memphis. Went to church downtown, so I lived in Memphis. Went to Dogwood Elementary. That was a Shelby County school when it was separated, Shelby County and Memphis City Schools. Went to Oak Forest for a year, one of the more formative years of my life. A lot of different struggles I had in the Shelby County school system, just racial stuff that I was experiencing as a young Black kid that was really shaping my view on the world, and it was, affecting my self-confidence and esteem. So mother made the decision to put me in Memphis City schools to get a more rounded experience and be more around people, who have real world experiences. And from there, Oak Forest was a funnel at Ridgeway Middle. And then I, capped it off at Ridgeway High School, man. One of the best decisions I think my parents ever made was putting me in the Oak Forest. And I'm so happy about the education I received at Ridgeway Middle and Ridgeway High School.
I think I say that all the time. I grew up in Whitehaven, and I had the opportunity when it came. I went to Whitehaven, went to elementary school in Whitehaven, and had a choice for middle school to either go to John P. Freeman or Colonial. And I chose Colonial because I was at that time in my life, I wanted to be an actor. So went to Colonial for their drama program. And from Colonial, everybody usually goes from Colonial to Overton. I went from Colonial to White Station. And I say going to White Station was, and having my mom I would rather you go to White Station. Best decision my parents ever made for me, or helped me make, I guess. I helped them make. So let's talk about, like you said, you mentioned some of the struggles that you had within the Shelby County school system, and you extrapolate that to the city of Memphis as a whole. What would you say you learned from the city of Memphis, of growing up in Memphis?
Man, so much. I was blessed. My father, Amos Webster, he's passed now, but he was probably one of the most influential people in my life. And he grew up in segregated rural Alabama. So he would always tell me, how things were. He would ride hours on the bus to go to the all-black school and get back at night when the sun was down and do it all over again the next day. And so, seeing the Civil Rights Museum, seeing that be established in the early 90s and see Mayor Harrington be the first Black mayor of Memphis, he made sure to educate me on what I was witnessing and the reasoning behind certain things. And then on top of that, I had just a full course display. Growing up in Germantown, it's a culture shock, being African American in that area. There's not many of us, and going to school with kids who hear things from their parents and repeat them at school. You start seeing how the world really is. And so, I had a well-rounded perspective on what was out there in the world. And then again, just, transitioning, going into the Memphis City school system, and then connecting with people from different ethnic groups, different backgrounds, different social economic, classes. That was where I really saw what Memphis had to offer, and the culture and the beauty in it. And some great friendships that I made from people that take me 30, 40 minutes to drive to their house from where I lived, but some of my best friends in life. And so that's what Memphis pretty much put me.
Yeah, man, it's so interesting that you say that, because now the demographics of the city, especially, and even the suburbs of the city, the Germantowns or Cordovas, like Germantown, Cordova is predominantly Black now, and it wasn't like that when we were growing up. Like
you saw signs of what was to come. Right. I had a sense.
And so it's so interesting that was your experience, because I think that experience isn't uncommon for people who lived in Germantown, or not even that. Like I remember like I never went to school with a white person until middle school. Yeah. And like my first I was in Clue elementary school, and my mom, we went on a trip to Gatlinburg or something, and they was like all the elementary Clue all getting together, and we were around some white people, and I was cool with some of them, and my mom was like, "Yo, when you on this trip, bro, you are not them."
I know that's right, man.
Yo, like parents had to have that conversation, like, yo, you are not them. You need to. And I'm like in the 5th grade or some shit, like, so it's interesting that you have to do that at that time. And so, all right, so you graduate from Ridgeway and you go to, what school did you go to again? I'm sorry.
I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, short. They call it SCAD for short.
Yeah, I knew the acronym, but I know you said, and I forgot it. So you go there. What was that experience like? You take in what you learned in Memphis down to college. What was that like?
Man, it was scary, because, I was going off the beaten path. I was always different. I didn't like doing what everybody else was doing. And by chance, I took one art class at high school. It changed my life. I always knew I could draw, but I never knew I'm still not, I wouldn't say I was a great drawer, but I knew how to have something in my head and communicate it on paper and execute. And people in class are saying, like, "Man, Austin, you can draw, man. You're pretty good." And I started getting confidence. And from there, I just happened to get a book one day in the mail. You do these PSATs and you fill out check boxes, things you're interested in, and schools see that, and they send you stuff. And they sent me a catalog of all the programs, and they had architecture, graphic design, film, and they had this major called industrial design. And I knew what industrial design was because I used to love getting Kicks magazines. Which was kind of like, Slam, but they had all the shoes, and they had this one article with a guy named, I think it was Eric Avar. He worked for Nike. I think Eric Avar worked on the pennies, but he worked on some of the iconic 90s shoes. And he was like, he went to Rhode Island School of Design, majored in industrial design. So I always knew in my head, that's what degree you get to go do that. So I was like, yo, I can go here and I can figure out what I wanted to do versus going to a traditional 4-year school. SCAD's a 4-year school too, but like a traditional liberal arts or state university where maybe the best creative thing I can do is architecture. And if I don't like that, I'm stuck. So went to the school that nobody had heard of at Ridgeway, and everybody's like, "Where are you going?" Like, what is it? And I was like, well, the campus is dope, so I know it's real. But went there, man. And it was like, for the first time, man, I was connecting with kids from all across the country, all across the world, China, India. And everybody was weird, in a good way. Everybody was different. And, at times, sometimes I like to listen to different music. I wasn't like, the things that most people liked, I was like doing the other thing. And there I was finding people who were more like me, but, from different parts of the country. And I was like, okay, this is dope. And really, I made Dean's List my first year there because it wasn't like a traditional curriculum. You got like projects that you have to execute. You got to do research. You got to design it. You got to build it and all that stuff. And like that was stuff I was naturally good at, but I didn't know it. When I was going to Ridgeway, it was all about academics. I was in the honors program. And I did okay. I wasn't the best student, but I wasn't bad either. But I was always kind of like average. And when I got to SCAD, I realized that I could be above average at something and felt good about it. And it just carried through school. I met my wife there. Ended up, following your footsteps, man. You inspired me, man. I ended up being the manager for the basketball team there. And
I didn't know that part. I knew everything. I didn't know that part at all.
No, man, everybody in Memphis got hoop dreams. I was trying to walk on to this program that they were in NAIA school. Well, Division III first, and then they transferred to NAIA. And so I was like, man, I could walk on there, man. I can do that, man. I went to Ridgeway, man. I could play with them folks, man. And they got dudes, 6'11" Africans and stuff, and people that I ain't never seen. I was like, man, this is the kind of talent in NAIA and D3. I said, man, I don't stand a chance. So the next best thing was being a manager where, I got to travel with the team, go on great trips, make great friends, see things on top of my education. So I had a blast. Some great friendships and lessons I learned, some great mentors in my life. I came through me managing the basketball team there. So
that's what I tell kids that all the time. Like, I'm not as involved as I once was when I first moved back, but even with the basketball team in White Station now, I'm like, bro, like, if you don't get a scholarship, whatever, it's fine. Getting a Division I scholarship is not a given because you play high school basketball.
It's not.
But you can make a way for yourself to have a Division I lifestyle or like a cool lifestyle wherever you go. You know what I'm saying? And like the goal of this whole thing is to get your school paid for.
Yep.
Like, that's the goal, to save your folks some money and get your school paid for. And being the manager is a great way to do it. And because you're around the game, you already love the game of basketball. You're around it. And it just opens up so many other career trajectories for you too, career paths for you, and the relationships that you build. Actually, like I said, I didn't know that about you and during the manager. That's crazy. But the one thing about NAIA schools is like they let people come play. If you want to hoop, come hoop. So when you seeing these dudes, I ain't seen you in class. How you on the basketball team?
Oh yeah.
But now
off the street, you're like, hey man, he's just here for some special classes.
Right. Yeah, I'm not seeing you in the computer lab. But yeah, so you mentioned the hoop dreams thing. That's a through line, like even through your questions on the answer on your questionnaire. And even when you started telling the story about seeing the Kicks magazine and kind of understanding that guy that designed the shoes, that's something that all basically, I say at some point in life, every dude from Memphis wanted to be Penny, right? And you wanted to be Penny. You either wanted to be number 25 Penny from the Memphis State Tigers, or you wanted to be number 1 from the Orlando Magic. So, like, what role did basketball play? Like Memphis and basketball. Like, let me know about how that was for you.
Man, basketball, man. It's funny. I resisted basketball first. My dad was 6'6.5". He was huge. And so people thought that, I was a big kid. They were like, yo, you're going to be as tall as your dad, so you need to start playing basketball. And I was the biggest kid, so they just put me on the post, and I hated it. But then I started getting better, and I started, blocking folks' shots all the time and just getting that sense of confidence and feeling good about it. People like, man, Austin, big Austin, man. They call me, Lil Felton Spencer. This is an old light-skinned guy for the Jazz, if you know 90s basketball references. And from there, man, I just loved it. And then as I started getting better, and then other kids that I knew were playing as well, and Penny just, pretty much taking the NBA by storm. But even Grant Hill, I would say Grant Hill was probably my favorite player just because, he was just smart, played the piano, but also was like, yo, I could play ball too and be nice. And I resonated with him more. But man, the 90s players, man, they were just so phenomenal, man. And from there, man, next thing you know, go to Ridgeway, and everybody knows Derek Byers and Coach Hennon in the program he was building. It was just so much talent coming through there that it would just rub off on you, man. We'd be playing pickup in gym class and be sweating nasty and going to class and didn't even care, but you had a good game. And felt good about yourself, man. And, you know, it was just one of those things. And next thing you know, you're like, that sense of pride you get from playing on the high school team, or even, you know, JV to some extent. You know, I had some fun there. But now I was like, okay, I want to take this to college, see if I can play somewhere else outside of Memphis. And, you know, it just didn't work out, man. I realized that my athletic limitations weren't there, as well as my height. The height that everyone thought I was going to get did not come. So I'm like 6 foot trying to play in the post. And I mean, I could bang, but man, that height, man, you got to have it, man. So, but it was fun, man. It made a lot of great friends and memories playing basketball.
One thing they don't teach is height. They can't teach you. They can teach you all the skills in the world. Man, like it's so interesting because like I think everybody has one of those type of hoop stories. You know, about especially in the era that we were, like you mentioned, 90s basketball, and 90s NBA basketball has. I mean, we're looking at people call it the golden age or golden era of basketball. Like obviously Michael Jordan kind of ran through everything, but you had all these other players that we know and love and respect, and that is the era of basketball that people most often refer things to. But even in that point in time, in locally, when y'all were at Ridgeway and I was at Colonial and White Station, like going over to Ridgeway to watch a Ridgeway BTW game, you got T-Head pulling up from half court. You got Andre Allen at BTW. You know what I'm saying? That's when Raleigh Egypt was double A. So you had Scooter McFadden and all them. Then, not to mention, like I said, Derek wasn't a slouch. I mean, Derek was one of the best players in the nation.
He was all right. That's fine.
So you got Derek, and then you got Adrian.
Yep.
You know, went D1, and Adrian Henning, who went D1. And so it was like that era. And I think like Memphis high school basketball, I put that up against a lot of different cities around the country. That era of Memphis high school basketball is one of my favorite ones. I mean, because I guess you always love what you grow up with. And I mean, we ended up winning so much, you just got used to it. You know, you just every March, you just go ahead and pencil in that we're going to be in the state championship. But it was just something that you kind of enjoyed. And like Memphis is a basketball town. We love our basketball. We love our Tigers, love the Grizzlies. And it's something that every person here like has love for. So your story is like a lot of other stories of guys, of people from Memphis, not even guys, because the women's basketball here is just it's good and getting back to where it used to be, where we had like the Ashley Shields and all them folks out here.
Yeah.
You know?
Now we've got some talented girl players as well. I mean, girls putting up crazy numbers. I was like, man, I mean, that's one of the best feelings. You know, some of the high school players, because the first big class that I remember coming up was the Tony Harris, the Marcus Moody's, Corey Bradfords, Carlos Kimbrough. Like those are guys like they end up going to play D1 and you see them on TV. And I was always reading the box scores. So I was always trying to see like, man, how many points did Robert O'Kelly have for Wake Forest? And then like, you're seeing that these guys are like, not only are they like playing D1 for major programs and major conferences, but they're putting up crazy numbers too. And you're like, wow, this is nuts. These are guys you'll probably see around the corner in the summer, like just going to Oak Court Mall, you know, and be starstruck.
Yeah. So they were so accessible.
Exactly.
That was a great thing about it. So let's check this out. So you haven't lived in Memphis. When did you move back to Memphis? I know you said you came back, you were doing some work. When you graduated, did you come back to Memphis for a minute?
I did. I came back. I lived in Memphis for about 8 years after college. That was not my plan. I actually was not planning to come back to Memphis, not from anything like, oh, I don't like the city, but I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to go to Oregon to work for Nike or Reebok or Adidas.
Yeah.
But once you got in industrial design, you realize that was like the NBA of design. Everybody was trying to either design sneakers, design athletic apparel, or design cars. Everything else, you can go design.
Yeah.
So Hunter Fan Company, historic Hunter Fan Company in Memphis, which I never knew about when I lived in Memphis, designed ceiling fans that you can buy at Home Depot and Lowe's and different showrooms. They had an opening for industrial designer, and it had just so happened that 2 other students from SCAD had gotten jobs there. So I started working there. My wife had started working before we were married. She got an opportunity here in Memphis as well, so it was a no-brainer that I'm moving back. And we lived in Cooper Young for 8 years. Had our first daughter in Memphis. Well, both my 2 daughters were born in Memphis. But yeah, man, definitely seeing it from a different perspective as an adult, seeing all the great restaurants and the culture. And around that time, I was always a Grizzlies fan because, we used to volunteer in high school at the Pyramid when they first came that inaugural season. So I've been rocking with the Grizz since Sidney Lowe was the coach. And we had, who was the main guys we had? We had Big Country and Michael Dickerson.
Oh, yeah. Sharif.
No, Sharif wasn't there. Sharif wasn't there, man. Because we had Jay Will. They traded Mike Bibby for Jay Will. We had Jay Will. There's somebody else there I'm missing, man. That was like, oh man, that guy was iconic.
Was Powell was early Grizz.
Elliot Perry, man, he was still putting up buckets, man, when they picked him up, man. People sleep on socks, man. He was nice, man.
People sleep on EP. People forget because you're talking about somebody being so accessible. Like you walk around town today, you see Elliot, say what's up to Elliot. Elliot is just like Elliot, but you don't realize that Elliot Perry was NBA player Elliot Perry, who was giving people buckets for a long time.
Yeah, no, but I mean, when he played the Grizz, it was like, yo, you want to play? I mean, he'd be like chilling, man. He came out and just getting buckets and assists, and I was like, man, that guy's a beast, man. But yeah, he is a very humble servant of the city, man. I've always been impressed with EP, man.
He's great, man. When I worked for the Grizzlies, obviously in the community department, we spent a lot of time together. So you spent some time here. Contrast the Memphis that you saw growing up to the Memphis that you lived in when you moved back here.
Man, that's a good question, Jamal. I guess when I was growing up, it was always like I always knew Memphis didn't have a lot of stuff. I mean, we were a nice city, great city. Don't get me wrong. The culture was different. I grew up at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, one of the bigger Black churches in the city. Played basketball with a lot of guys that still friends with today through their youth sports programs and stuff. So that was my culture. It was going to school in Germantown, seeing one alternate reality, and then spending a lot of time at church and different events in the city. But now as an adult, I started to see the authentic culture that the city had to offer. The sports culture, obviously I knew basketball, but then by that time the Grizzlies had established themselves, and seeing that blossom, the Redbirds, even though they're minor league, they're entrenched in the community and the culture, the restaurants, the barbecue. I mean, I knew barbecue, but the fact that like some of these restaurants I had never heard of, I'm like, yo, this is a crazy, like you got barbecue shops on every corner. Trying to think of what else in Memphis just really impressed me. Just the potential. Like you start to see like the other cities, once you get out and travel a little bit and you see all the other cities, that Memphis is special, but there's still like this hump that is always trying to get over and get out of his way. But nonetheless, it's still a gem. That's the thing. Even though for Memphis' shortcomings and the poverty and the crime, is still a beautiful, beautiful diamond. So every time I come back, living in Atlanta for 5 years now, Atlanta's fast. I love it. I love the city, but it's nothing like Memphis. So every time I come home, man, I was like, I could move back to Memphis tomorrow and be just as happy as I am living in Atlanta.
It's so interesting you say that. So like, the phrase is going on now is like Memphis has the momentum. And so then when we're playing into that potential that we know we have, and you look at the sister cities of Memphis, I guess you would say, Memphis, Louisville, you could throw New Orleans in there. Atlanta was one of the sister cities at one point, but Atlanta has outpaced Memphis with a little bit of, more visionary leadership, I guess. But it's also one, like I said, it's one of the charms of Memphis. Like we know we can be something else, but we kind of like what we are.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fight that I think that's the fight that a lot of the politicians have. I think it's the fight that a lot of Memphians have, is that we see what we can be when we look at a Nashville, when we look at Atlanta, when we look at a Charlotte, but we also kind of like doing this. You know what I'm saying? We also kind of like being the Memphis that we are. So it's interesting that you said that, and you kind of saw that and see it that way, and that because I know people who have left say I'm never coming back.
Like, I do too. I don't get that thinking. I mean, and, people have different things they like. But every time I hear that, I'm like, yeah, you must have not gotten the best introduction to the city. to have that perspective. Because to me, I've seen a lot of major cities, and like I said, Memphis is home, and obviously you got this sense of comfort. But man, it's something about the pace of life, the traffic, and it's nothing like it, man. So
there was when I first moved back here from LA. I used to laugh at people getting mad about traffic jams because the traffic jam in Memphis ain't nothing like a traffic jam in LA.
LA makes me so mad, man.
I love a traffic jam in Memphis. Don't never put me in something like I did in LA. So, what would you say you missed the most?
Just the pace of life. There's nothing, I love nothing more that I love than coming home and just driving down Poplar. I love just going from East Memphis to downtown on Poplar. It's nothing like that drive to me. You can always see the growth of the city that way. You can see all the new developments, new buildings, new restaurants, new shops. And it takes you to, Midtown, and you're just like, man, I just love the city, man. Something about the pace of life. And now even with Crosstown Concourse, I've been able to check that out. And I'm just in awe of because I remember that series, and I was like, man, that place is disgusting. Every time you drive past it on Cleveland, you're like, man, what is in there?
Why didn't they tear it down yet? That's an eyesore. Yeah.
It felt like one of those, we watched like an old cartoon from the 80s or 90s, and they had like the evil bad guy who's like this layer. That building felt like that. It felt like some dirty, shady stuff was going on over there. And they turned it into something really special and unique. I hope I know it's going to be sustainable for a long time because all the business and support that it has. But I'm in awe of that place.
So I'm gonna say one more deep Memphis centric question, and you might have already answered it in the conversation because you're good at this. I can tell you answering questions before I even ask them. I got answers right down, and you already asked them. You already answered them. But the two or three best qualities you think you got from here, you got from being a Memphian?
Man, yeah, some good questions.
That's what I do, baby.
I would say my love for sport is definitely tied to Memphis. My passion, like I said, I follow the Tigers. Every commit we get, every person that transfers, I'm keeping up with it. All the coaches, all the tourney runs, the Grizz, I keep up with them as well. Big Ja fan. And I just love this the sense of the hoop pride. Like I love the fact, sometimes it can be negative, but the youth basketball circus, AAU through high school, there's nothing like it. Like I was at that T-Head game when BTW played Ridgeway, and that was before we ever knew who or what Steph Curry was. And I mean, to see a whole collective gym gasp when somebody shot the ball, that was weird, man. That dude, I mean, the stuff he was pulling, man, I ain't never even imagined someone being able to play basketball like that and destroy high school teams. Like he was literally destroying high school teams. Torian Moy. So yeah, just those experiences, man, it's nothing like it. So I would say sport. And even though, it is a painful part of my life, I think, just some of the racial hurt and challenges that I've had growing up in the city, it definitely it's helped prepare me for the world, to be quite honest. Especially with everything going on in the world today, especially in the U.S., it's not a surprise. I've had to educate, my wife, she grew up in the military, so she grew up on bases across the world. And it's, all different cultures are living together. The kind of racial strife you see in Memphis, which is a microcosm of what's really going on in the country, I had to kind of educate her on that. Like, you got to look beneath the surface. Not everything and how it's said or how it's done is intent with well wishes, and it's unfortunate, but it helped prepare me for the world. So I am thankful for that education. And I would say the music, man. Music is a big, big part of my life. Obviously, from what I'm doing with Deepr, and just knowing that Stax Records and David Porter, and he's a family friend, and being able to know that this guy wrote all these hits and is sampled by Wu-Tang and Will Smith and Mariah Carey and High Records and Willie Mitchell and what Al Green did. And then you start looking at, like, for me, one of the best fun I used to have was go to Pop Tunes or Cast Music on Tuesdays to buy music. I would buy my Source magazine every month, look at what album had 5 mics, what were the albums being promoted, and I would go take the little bit of money that I had and go buy the CD on Tuesdays, and then I would go look at the liner notes when I got home and listen to the record. And that was how I found out producers I liked. Like today, I had a kind of a full circle moment. I got to chat with Carlos 6 July Brody. Are you familiar with him?
No.
So this is probably one of the more unheralded gems that Memphis has produced. Carlos Brody, producer, beat maker. I want to say Carlos is from Whitehaven. I think he went to Fairleigh. Don't quote me on that.
Haven.
But man, he was one of Diddy's hitmen. He produced "Can't Nobody Hold Me Down." Yeah. He was one of the hitmen. And the fact that somebody from Memphis was able to pull that off in the 90s. I mean, now, anybody can blow up. Take Keith or, any producer from any part of the country can make, regional records. But to go from Memphis to New York and make big New York records, unheard of. And then he produced NDRE's video, which was a big smash hit. So he's a Olympian that a lot of people don't know, but I had an opportunity to chat with him today, and I was just a big fan because he was one of those names I would look at and know his name in the credits, but I had no idea he was from Memphis.
So this has been building up for you for a minute. Like you've been paying attention to this stuff, and it kind of just that part of the story is just amazing in itself. Like something that you used to do when you were little, and the interest that you had, and turn that into this app that is just that's being able to introduce music to other people. Like obviously, I didn't know that guy's name, but I knew the 2 songs that you mentioned, NDRE's video and "Can't Hold Me Down," or was All About the Benjamin.
No, Can't Hold Me Down. He did "Can't Hold Me Down," but he did man.
Even when you say the hitmen, a whole list of hits run through my mind. So yeah, that's cool, man. I had no idea.
Yeah, and then you got Drummer Boy as well. He's a friend and just a great supporter of Deepr, and I'm connecting with all these people that making this app I had no idea I'd be interacting with. But a lot of these creators, man, they don't get their just due. People don't know, they have their moment and then they're gone. And the way streaming music is, it's all about the artists and the main people. But there's so many people that make a record sound great still to this day. And that's what we hope our app and our platform and our mission provides, is like an outlet for people to know who a Carlos Brody is and celebrate him.
Yeah, man. I got somebody I wanna introduce you to, another friend of mine who friend of the show. He's done a lot of good. We've been working together for years. He's one of the Memphis. He's one of the music writers for Memphis for a couple publications here. He knows a lot about Memphis music history, bro. I think it's a natural connection, and I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier.
You talking about JB?
No, not JB, but he works with JB at the at WYXR. It's my boy Ezra.
Okay.
My boy Ezra. Yeah, I'll make sure I make that connection. So you talked about you liking 90s R&B. Who's your favorite 90s R&B artist?
Oh man, don't do that to me.
We can do a versus style. Jodeci or Boyz II Men?
Ask your brother, man, who I like out of the 2 people, man. So me and your brother, man, one of my dearest friends. There's a story. He had Jodeci's, I want to say, "Come and Talk to Me" album. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was your mom's CD or not. I don't know where he got it from, but I had a bootleg version of the Big Timers album. I forgot which Big Timers album was. And I told him that we were in high school, so he had a good head on his shoulders then. So I don't know why he made this decision, but I said, I'll swap you this Big Timers album for this Jodeci album. And he did it.
Yo.
So if anybody sees Justin Body, man, question him about his music taste and his CD.
Justin ain't an R&B dude. He ain't no R&B dude. He should have never had that album in his hands. But I'll tell you one thing, thanks to him, I know all of Cash Money's discography. And so that story rings true. Yeah. So not your top 90s R&B artists. Give me your top 5. You don't have no in order, not in any order, just or your favorites.
Man, And I like the groups that are kind of under the radar, like Solo, which is an R&B quartet. Great songs. Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis produced a lot of their stuff. Love New Edition. They're 80s, 90s, so they kind of go in that realm. Love Janae. You know, they had the, produced by KG, who was from Naughty by Nature. Again, you think about the producers, like he was making hip hop array, but also making it's a group thing. Like these producers were so diverse. Trying to think of what in the 90s R&B. Love Blackstreet. I love Teddy Riley. That's 4, right? Is that 4?
Yes, 4. Yep.
Man, let me think of a solo artist. Solo R&B artist that I like. Tevin Campbell.
That boy Tevin was bad. He was bad.
Tevin Campbell, man. I think, and I was talking to somebody about this other day, man. I think if Tevin Campbell came out today with his talent, he would be one of the icons of music, especially R&B. But the world wasn't ready for his talent and who he was as a person, I think, and I think that affected his career. But man, Tevin Campbell, you go back and listen to his records, man, his voice.
Dog. I tell people I judge people by like, the hip thing in the last couple of years has been like 90s R&B brunches and stuff. Or people have a 90. If the first Tevin Campbell song you play, although it is an all-time great song, if the first Tevin Campbell song you play is, "Oh, Can I Talk to You?" I'm on you, because he got like 2 or 3 like deep cuts, and you can play like "I'm Ready." I love "I'm Ready." I will play "I'm Ready" before "Can I Talk to You." So yeah.
Even the Back to the World album, that was him kind of going to that neo soul realm.
Yeah.
And there's some gems on there, man. I'm like, man, like that didn't get his just due. But yeah, Tevin Campbell was awesome.
So let's move it a little bit local. Your favorite Memphis artist, rap, soul, whatever you got.
Dang, man. Favorite Memphis artist. Definitely Project Pat is one of them. Project Pat's cadence, man, and his flow, man. There was nothing like that when he was coming up in the 2000s. Even listening to some of his music today, I'm like, man, I still haven't heard anybody like that in hip hop. Trying to think who else I like. Yo Gotti was obviously bubbling when I was in high school. I gotta admit, I wasn't the biggest fan then, but I learned to grow and love his style just because what he represented, and the fact that he's like the epitome of grit and grind, man. Like he hustled his way to being where he is today, and look at all the talent that he's bringing along on the ride with him. The Moneybag Yo's, the Black Youngsters. I mean, there's so much talent that can be attributed to Yo Gotti's ride. So, gotta definitely big up him. Trying to think who else. Kirk Whalum. I was always fascinated by him. All the Whalum family, but Kirk Whalum in particular, just to be like a touring musician and a jazz artist, to like kind of be world renowned and be that he's from Memphis. That was always fascinating to me.
And also funny, the Whalum family is also interesting too, because like you said, that whole thing. But once again, they were so accessible to everybody here. It just seemed like normal, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, he's a Grammy-winning, world-renowned performer.
Yeah,
he's like sitting at Top's Barbecue right next to you or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
And what's interesting is that, like, obviously he came back home. He's been around the world. He's seen everything, and the fact that Memphis still had a special place, to me, that speaks to the beauty of the city. But yeah. I'm having a hard time on the Memphis artists, man. Obviously I like the old Stax music. The Rufus Thomas, fortunate enough to be able to like see him in person, like as normal interactions. Like I never took it, there'd be certain barbecues and stuff, and he'd be there and a big character. And I was like, I thought he was just a silly old guy. But then when I started looking at his history and what he kind of did in Trailblaze, I'm like, man, that's crazy that I was amongst somebody who had that kind of talent and marking the world. So always respect to the older artists, the Isaac Hayeses and the people that really trailblaze for the city.
All right. I'm with you on that one. Like the since I've been back here and I got a little deeper into the musical history of Memphis. It's like you said, it's something when you're growing up, you know a little bit, you know, people, your mom and them always listen to WDIA, or you got
OJ.
you know what I'm saying? So you know all of that, but to kind of understand what that meant for the country and the culture at the time, and to get you get it now.
Man, sorry, man. It's funny that I couldn't stand WDIA growing up, man. I was like, I was talking, and because I mean, they're talking about issues that you're a kid, you don't understand this stuff, but it's when you start understanding the history of WDIA, and now as an adult, the fact that our parents were listening to talk radio like that, like it was almost like a, like CB radio, like that was the channel for the Black community to voice their concerns, no matter what part of the city you're from. And it was like a central like landline.
Yeah,
so that was dope. That was really dope.
So I'm reading your questionnaire, and it came to the fill in the blank question. It says the M made me blank because of blank, and you wrote the M made me able to laugh at myself because it's the only way to survive the checking culture. Now, what was the best check you've ever heard? It don't necessarily have to be about you, but like, what's one of the best checks that you, or most memorable checks that you remember in them checking days?
Oh man, it's funny, and I realized Memphis culture is special, but then I realized it affected other cities as well. Like watching Atlanta, there was this one episode, the FUBU episode. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And the kid, everybody was trying to find out who had the fake FUBU jersey and who had the real one. And just remembering the sweat bullets, like that was real life, man. Like your clothing decisions could stick with you for months. I'll never forget, I had a family friend, and I was the type of guy, if somebody gave me some clothes, I'm a rock it. Like I'm still not fashion savvy. So I would put on, hey man, it's free clothes. It clothes my body. I'm good. And man, I got burned so many times doing that. I had this shirt, it had fishes on it. It was a Pierre Cardin shirt. I probably still wouldn't have worn it as an adult. I had bad decision-making skills back then. And they had these fishes on it. And people were I remember, I forgot, one of my friends was like, "What's up, Austin? I love the fishes because they're so delicious." Shirt. And I was like, everybody was laughing, and people were like leaving their classes to come find me to say, "Man, I gotta see the shirt you wear." Everybody talking about your shirt in school today. And man, it wasn't funny. I was pissed, man. I was like, "Yeah, y'all go find something else to do, man." But that was just the culture, man. And it made you stronger because you learn how to laugh at yourself. And some of the best memories you had, man, you joke on people and they joke on you. And it was love. At the end of the day, it was love and respect. Some of the most fiercest checkers I know are some of the greatest people I know now as adults. They're just good people. There's love. It's connected.
That's what it is. Like, you just get on there and you talk worse about your good friend because you know it ain't nothing, but I'm just teasing you. But yeah, man, I remember taking the Memphis checking style with me when I went to Arizona for school, and people were looking at me like, "What are you saying?" Like I mean, like, man, get your own, and just go in on somebody, big head, little nose, whatever. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, okay, all right, y'all got used to my checking. It's not joning, it's not whatever y'all want to call it. We call it checking.
Dozens.
But yeah, like you said, man, and you wore the wrong pair of shoes, or you with some dirty shoes. You do, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. You better be strong because they coming at you, and you better
all day. You walk in their halls, you better move fast.
You better move fast. Don't let them catch you, man. Like that's, like you said, that checking grew a lot of people up. And then I was always fortunate enough to be around other good checkers. So I had like my 2 or 3 in the tuck. And then by the time I was done with my 2 or 3, somebody else got jumped in. And I was like, okay, cool. I ain't got to worry about I ain't got to come up with nothing no more. I'm good.
Yeah, you got somebody on one of your friends is, a beast, man. You straight, but man, sometimes you get called alone, man.
Right.
If
you singled out, bro, you gotta keep fighting, keep throwing them haymakers till you get out of it.
Man, it's funny you say that about, sorry, not to interrupt, the taking the culture outside of the Memphis. Like, I got like so many people got pissed at me for like checking. They're like, man, like, why you always got something negative to say? Why you always talking about me? Like, it's like, man, it's love, man. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. Like, it's like, you can talk about me too. It's fun. And
I actually like your shirt, so I'm going to tell you to look at the shirt. You're cool, ain't it?
So yeah, I had to learn how to turn it off with people not from the city. But when I'm back with people in the city, we still go back to it like it's just like yesterday, man. And it's fun.
Now, it's so funny. Like, we talked about my brother. Whenever we call each other on the phone, we spend the first like 2 minutes just checking each other. It's not a hey, hello, how you doing? What's up, ugly ass dude? Like, whatever. Like, just whatever. Just going in on each other. Like, that's just the way of life. It's ingrained. So look, before we get out of here, man, you talked about Deepr before, so let's book in like that. Let the people know, and I'll put in the description where they can find it. But let the people know again about Deepr and how they can help fund and all this other. How can they be involved with it?
Yeah, man. Well, Deepr, we're building. We started with the app, and now we're building out a new product called the Deepr widget. It interacts with your streaming content. You're watching a movie or a television show, and you're like, I love this song. Typically, what you do is you pull out the Deepr app, or you Shazam it, find out what the song is, or you go look it up. With the Deepr widget, it's indoctrinated with the SVOD, which is like Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, things of that nature, that you can like find out what that song is, see the information on it. So that's what we're working on now. But we just launched a crowdfunding campaign this week on WeFunder. So if you go to wefunder.com/Deepr, Deepr, we're giving the people the opportunity to be a part of this, especially in the Black and Brown community. We don't have a lot of opportunities to invest in tech. And we see this as a great platform and a great way to support, because it's really about the creators, people behind the music, which is typically a lot of Black, Hispanic, minority creators who don't get their respect and due. This platform is for them to see who they are, show people who they are, and use that information to enjoy your music. But then, for us, this is an opportunity to get at the ground level to be a part of something special. We've had the fortunate opportunity to be supported by Google. SCAD, my alma mater, they invested in us as well. They see the potential. So if you are interested in tech, if you love music, if you're a creator, you like making music, make beats, Deepr is the platform for you. We would love to have you on our team as an investor. So check out the profile, and that's Deepr, man.
And so, they can download it on their iPhones, on their Androids, just the Deepr app first, not the widget part, but the what y'all going out. They can get it in all those on their mobile phones and whatnot.
The Deepr app is free $99. You can download it right now. We don't have any ads in there because we want a seamless experience. It's all about getting in, making some new playlists, making some new discoveries, and going deeper.
Going deeper, man. Going deeper into some of the music that you love. Finding out about some of the people that help produce these music, writers, producers, instrumentalists, all that good stuff, man. So, Austin, man, I thank you for giving us some time to talk to the M-Made Me and let the people know your story, know about Deepr, know what you got going on, man. We really appreciate it. Like you said, we go back a long way, and I'm just happy to see my people out here winning and doing what they doing and changing, making their mark on the world the way we all know that we can. So I appreciate you. The city appreciates what you're doing. And with that being said, that's Austin Webster. This is the M-Made Me, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Thanks, Jamal. Appreciate it, man.